How's it going, everybody? Waiting on Paul, Boggie, Brighton. So we're going to play a little bit longer intro. Some early soul speak called Sacred Stride. Be back in about 3.5 minutes. Hello, Shanine Mouland. What else to do? Tried it all, to thine own self be true. Not staying for what they saying, next spell they selling. Take it but don't tell, trying to bribe the angels of my soul. I've been pride of the tribe, possessed and occupied, devil to my soul. Been homeless, holy and whole, found divinity in me. Found divinity is me, not a sin to be me, I can just be. Fears lied to me, now I'm free. Fearless and free. Forgive me my mother, sister, father, and brother. Forgive me my child, stranger, friend, and lover. See what you see, the past let go of me, it's letting go of you now. This is where we are, not where we're gonna be. Yesterday's song, same old tired day, it's gone. It's where we let it be. Burdens wasted, blessings chased, shadows grace, finally facing death, no last breath, suns and sisters setting like the suns. No more forgetting, impossible, not possible, but actual, factual. Holographic, apocalyptic, there is no antithesis, cosmic synthesis, put parenthesis around the words, I am a soul. Mystical circumstance, no chance, happenstance, nothing catastrophic, cryptic to mystic. Opening eyes, seeing through mysteries. Don't think our entire histories has a run crisp at our knees, trying to hold a lot down within you and me. That's right. Dark energy, feel the end of our yin-yang universe. It's no disgrace, been fooled now. We retake this holy place. It lay there just beyond the lies. Time to face anything, anyone keeping us divided. They tried, they can't hide it. The only Independence Day that means anything is the one that takes place from the spirit, heart, and mind. We're our own salvation, divine demonstration, no matter the station of our lives. Freedom applies to every kind, and just remember, nobody can gain freedom unless all included, all invited. Sacred stride, cadence of a soul calling. Lies, governments, religions all falling. Pick up the pieces, crease the peace of the cool waters of the soul. It's not to believe, it's to know. The only Independence Day that means anything is the one that takes place from the spirit, heart, and mind. We are our own salvation, divine demonstration, no matter the station of our lives. Freedom applies to every kind, and just remember, nobody can gain freedom unless all included, all invited. Sacred stride, cadence of a soul calling. Lies, governments, religions all falling. Pick up the pieces, increase the peace of the cool, still waters of the common soul. It's not to believe, it's to see, it's to know. Somebody said, my friend Anna Thomas said, old school. Well, we had to kill some time because we were waiting on the seafood master, Boggie. I'm going to get him up here. Just a few quick hellos. Hello, Shanine Mouland and Anne Marine. Hello, Oregon, Tammy Krause. Ria Magdalena, what's happening? Denise Chadwick. Pamela Johnson from Mexico. Anne Haywood from Sweden. Petra Savitas from Germany. And who else we got here? Heather Nielsen, Manitoba, Canada. Candy Parley, long time no see. all these Allison from New York, so many people. Thank you all for coming in. We're gonna have we're gonna start off our first show on Tuesday with Paul. It ought to be a riot. We're gonna talk about some serious stuff. So let me get him up here.
Hello. Very firstly, Shanine, have a party. He got your surname right.
Did I?
Finally. I tease you.
Oh, I know. I couldn't even say her first name for the first 6 months that I knew her. Man, we got El Paso, Texas in the house. We got California, England, heaven, hell, the whole 9 yards.
And everywhere in between. I've probably been to most of them. But anyway.
That's right. You've been busy lately. I noticed you've been busy lately.
Yeah, well, I was actually. It was originally. I would have the original time that we had. I would have been out and about, and when we set it forward, she said, "Oh, okay, I can just about get home."
Okay.
So I'm actually home for a change. Normally I'm at home bouncing on my yoga ball, which is on my balance ball, and I've got my lightsaber. So happy Boggie. So
So I meant like you've been busy, daily.
Oh well, yeah. That too. It's it's a busy time. It's an interesting time. There's my name Boggie means the balancer between the chaos and the calmness. And boy, is there some chaos around at the moment. So
is there? Where's the chaos?
It's here, there, scattered about. Look under a rock, you'll find it. Look at your shadow, it's there. There's a bit of, but it's finding that calmness within the 0 point, as your wonderful, as the wonderful Lady Morgan herself would say, and which is the Tao, Wu Chi Tao is the 0 point as well. It's very, very cool. So. But you know me, I'll always slant the Taoist side to it. There's always a Qigong.
I dig the Tao.
I
dig the Tao.
I know you do. Well, you are. The Tao means your own personal path or way. Yeah. Morgan's a Taoist. You're a Taoist. You have your own way. You have your own path, and I honour and respect and love you guys for it. So
there's a lot of that. A lot of people are exhibiting the Tao as the days go by. There's a lot of people liberating themselves energetically, and I think and I think there's something we're starting to realize is that we can do this, and I think we were always sold on, hey, if you do this, you'll be fine. Everything will be great from that point on. You'll be walking on water from that point on. But I think what we're starting to realize is with these expansions comes more humility. More, hey, it's okay. I don't need to have everything perfect. Hey, it's okay if I wake up the next day after an expansion and I go into a depression for 2 hours and start crying for no reason known, or whatever comes your way, right? I mean, the human's not going to be left behind, man.
I think there's two things there. I mean, firstly, this thing of balance. I think when people a lot of people, or the Western approach to balance, it's like a flat line. Or balance means it's steady and flat. Balance, or at least the Eastern, the ancient philosophy of balance, is the Tai Chi symbol, the Yin Yang as they call it. There above my head, but it's a wave. It's a wave, dude, and the wave, you have your ups and you have your downs. So you get a download of energy, or like you go for a jog, or you start do fitness again. The first thing you get, you feel like pants, you feel rubbish, and you have to build up your energy again. You get a download. The first thing that happens with a download is the char. What you no longer need comes out. So you burp, you pop, you cry, and we in the West think that is a bad thing, or I'm hoping we used to. All the traumas in your life were teachers, were sifus, they were guides, and the fact I always say, whatever you've been through, and I know you've been through quite a bit, and I know quite the audience have been through great traumatic things. But if you're still here, you're a freaking warrior. You're a
That's
freaking
right, man.
survivor. That's
That's
the
right.
point. The ones that are still here are the ones that are meant to, you're here, you exist because you're meant to exist. So does everything else, but you exist because you're meant to exist. And the fact you've got through it all means you're far much of a survivor and a warrior than you think you are. All those ordeals are there to make you stronger. They're there to make you show you how strong you are. It's a little bit like the guy going, "Go on, hit me." So somebody comes and hits him with a forklift truck. You want to get hit, I'll hit you. And that's what life does to you. Life will hit you with a forklift truck. If you're still standing, you're stronger than you think. Yeah. And it's understand, but so this balance of the up and the down. And I think there's this misconception of, at one point it'll be all over. I think I believe in our consciousness, like science. There's science that actually shows that when they were studying for where consciousness is, there was actually signs it was outside the body, that our consciousness actually is outside us, and we control this body almost like a puppet. So when you feel like, oh, I'm a puppet on the string, well, you're the puppeteer. Your own your consciousness is formless, it's shapeless. So I think when we talk about downloads or upgrades, we're expanding our awareness, we're expanding our understanding, and I think that will just keep growing. But I still think there'll be ups and downs, but just different versions. Mm-hmm. Remember when you were 6 years old or 16 years old or 26 years old, your life then, what you thought was important then and serious and what you didn't think mattered, totally changed from when you were 6 to when you were 16 to when you were 26, 36, 46, 106. What's that just be? And so on. It always changes. Things perspective is the here and the now. And this is what they say about living in the here and now. And breathe.
Man, you put it out as much as I do. Yeah, you got to take a breath after that. It's like going underwater and holding your breath. I get that, and I'm just saying that, I don't know. For me, I know there's polarities becoming more magnified, and a lot of times we'll think about, oh, well, look at that, that looks horrible, that's atrocious, that's horrific. But there's another side to that spectrum. And that's the personal growth, the expansion, the higher skills and abilities and sensitivities coming into play. And I guess what I was saying when I made that comment was that even though our hardware is being upgraded, our software is being upgraded, we're being enhanced, we're enhancing ourselves, we're enhancing the collective. There's still this beautiful human element, this human aspect that's not going away, and that's actually the part of us that's taking its power back. Yeah. The rest of it, when we connect to our multidimensional aspects or divine essences or whatever it is, this is something that, yes, we're remembering. It's offering code for us to examine and embrace and accept and open up and put into, and actualize. But the human stepping into a higher awareness that even in this physical body is eternal, is supernatural, is that consciousness that's seemingly centered in this physical body. But you're right. We've all had, meditative experiences. I think they've picked up too, where we're all of a sudden not in our body. Like we're looking at, we're 20 feet above the roof of our house looking outside. I've had it happen in the last couple of days when I've laid down. It's been in the room, in the room or in the house or in the backyard. But, I was getting that pretty strong last night before I fell asleep. It was like, where do you want to go? Where do you want to go? Who do you want to see? What do you want to do? And I'm like, okay, how's this work? because it feels very familiar. So you can be out there with that bird's eye, view, or, last night I was a bear and I was a wolf and I was an owl and I was going out into the ethers and I was kind of like targeting specific consciousnesses and energies and people, and I was just spreading the love, man. And those were my vehicles of transportation in a Merkabah. So here we go. It's all coming.
Right, so somebody's saying I've got to show my full shirt. So it is Fear is for Others from the mighty Bruce Lee.
There you go.
And my name is Boggie. Boggie means the balance between the chaos and the calmness. I scare the living daylights out of most dark stuff. I'm actually known as Boggie the Ghostbuster. I've been to some of the most haunted houses the most haunted houses in England and in Europe. Went to Russia, an ex-KGB place that was supposed to have poltergeists. I walk in there, nothing happens.
Yeah.
I think the guys were more scared that nothing was happening than what normally happens, because apparently when I left, it all kicked off again, and that freaked them out. But it's this understanding of when you take control of your own consciousness, your own area, you can filter out what you no longer need, or filter out what doesn't help you grow. And so, that's how I do that sort of stuff. And yeah, the fear is for others is that, it's understanding things in a certain way. And like you were saying about expanding your consciousness and being certain things.
Yeah.
I've definitely experienced myself as 30 foot, but my body was like my shoe. I'm still connected to it, but my awareness, I've been in a car where I'm 30 foot in, I'm 30 foot in the sky. I can see through the car and I can see everything around, and I'm not floating up there. I've actually grown, and I'm moving with the vehicle. And my perception has grown. And there's this Eastern thing of your consciousness just grows and grows and grows.
Yeah.
But they also, and this, all the my Sifus made me study theology for over 12 years. And when you actually study the hardcore, they're all saying the same thing. They're all saying, a lot of people don't want you to know that. And there's interesting things like in the 1400s, Christianity, the Muslim faith, Judaism and Hinduism all came together and decided in their scriptures which ones were going to focus on what. So Christians will focus more on this, the Muslim faith will focus more on this, and so on and so forth. And they split up information, they separated information, because before then, in the Christian faith, reincarnation was a big thing. You reincarnated over and over and over again. And there wasn't heaven and hell. You had purgatory. You had this tunnel. You experienced the things that you did in that life. And at the end of that tunnel, you decide whether you want to go to heaven or whether you come back and try again and experience again.
It's amazing. It's amazing how, because if you look at let's say, the last, well, it's not even, barely 2,000 years. I mean, Judaism goes back a little further, and then Christianity is basically 2,000 years ago. Muhammad came, 100 or 1,200 years later, something like that. The Quran, talks very, I mean, Jesus is a huge part of that. In fact,
Jesus is a prophet. He's a prophet in the Quran.
And in fact, the end times, he makes an appearance along with their Messiah or something to that effect. But I guess what I'm saying, it's interesting how that's really a short period of time. If you consider the level of the evolution of civilization, even if you just go back 2,000 years ago, and you've got Josephus in the first century, who was the preeminent historian, and there's volumes of information that are attributed to him and what he could gather. And if you just think about that, we've actually had a pretty good opportunity to get the truth passed down pretty accurately. But it's interesting how it's been altered so much, right? But you're right. All of them carry, there's a thread of truth in all of them that they all carry, no matter how anyone has tried to alter it. It's like, It's like the perfect yin yang. Something has a certain intention and puts it out there into the field, and the universe always has an answer to keep it in balance, right?
And I think there's everything's being pushed together, so everything's chaotic and we think it's falling apart. I think it's falling into the place, because everything's being brought up to the surface, and I know with your journey and Morgan's journey that, like things come up. Anything that you're hiding, trying to hide under the cupboard, that's coming out of the cupboard and coming and shaking your hand and saying hello. And
yeah, it is. It sure is.
Face. And I think that's this energy. I mean, again, I love the blend between science and spirituality. Quantum physics, actually now, the quantum physics and there's the bioelectrical fields they talk about, they all actually confirm what the ancient knowledge talk about. And the whole thing of the age of Aquarius and the golden race was there is every 26,000 years, there's this cycle, and this cycle, you have the energy builds up. Well, NASA reported back in 2010 that our solar system is hitting this energy, this dust cloud, this energy cloud, and it's 2,000 light years long. So we entered it, and it started entering it around about 2008, 2010. We're now fully immersed in it, which coincides with the Mayan prophecy. Was actually it was never the end of the world. It was the end of an old civilization, the beginning of a new one.
Yeah,
That's what
it was almost like. Hey, did you see? Okay, you said two things. You said two things I wanted to go back on. God, what were you? You were just saying. I forgot the first one. It'll come back. Did you see Pamela Johnson's on here? She was on last week for like the first time. I've been after her for like 2 or 3 years. Everybody knows her. I mean, she's very supportive. She also puts out a lot of good information. She shared something that was about 10 days ago, and it was basically correcting the date of the Mayan calendar, which was actually 10 days ago. Was technically December 21st, 2012. And on that day, the energy was just like through the roof, man. It was just like, it's like when she sent it. And I think I asked her, I said, "Had you know about this?" And she's like, "No, I mean, she just came across it. Somebody else had put it up." But I don't know, man. It's like, everyone I've talked to, something has altered dramatically since June 1st. Yeah. And then every month, June, July, August, and hell, we're only 8 days into September. And it's like September's just been huge. 9/11's coming up. Morgan's been seeing 9/11 for 18 months. She's been saying, I don't know what it is. I keep seeing 9/11. I keep seeing 9/11. She got a transmission in about a week ago. And basically, it was talking about how this 9/11 is opening up a gateway that's going to reverse the sequential part of what happened in 2001 9/11, which was the event occurs, everybody starts pushing love and light, love and light, love and light. And then as time goes on, people start going into, hey, wait a minute, what's going on here? Now, what happened? Like, how did that happen? And then, of course, levels of cognitive dissonance and so on, where now the info came into her it's going to be almost like reverse. Yeah. It's going to be like, it's, whatever's happening now. And you can take several examples around the world, and there's all this, wait a minute, who said what? How do you know? Come on, man, you're, me off here. You know what I mean? And then it's going to go into, the love and the light and sending the good energy. Anyway, yeah. So there's a lot going on, and it's moving so rapidly. And I don't know. You can't even like take a picture, like a snapshot in a day, because it's moving so fast. Yeah. You know what I mean? It'd be like ancient history. If you take a picture today, 24 hours from now, you show it to somebody, it's going to be like, ancient history.
Well, it's actually said there was an archaeological, well, not so much dig as such, but archaeological study of the Mayan pyramids, and the Mayan pyramids are step pyramids, and it's supposed to actually indicate what happens in the moment of the ascension, of the energy. Is that is that first it takes 100 years to for the first level to happen. Then it only takes 50 years. Then it only takes 25, and it keeps doubling. And this is what's happening now. Is that, as you're saying, every month everything's the energy is intensifying. If you actually look at the Schumann resonance at the moment, it's going mental. It's more crazy than me. It's and that's pretty impressive. And it's going off, and at points it's actually it's stopping and saying they can't get a reading. It's going that intense, and that Schumann resonance is in essence it's part of the collective consciousness.
Absolutely.
It's our energy affecting Gaia itself.
Yeah, it's like the aurora borealis. They said the aurora borealis is a reflection of the Earth's energy. Yeah. The other thing too that I'm seeing is that normal things that we've gone through, right? Because of the way the truth has been elevated, and our awareness has been elevated, normal things that we have gone through, traditions, cultural things, they're starting to be challenged. And I don't mean like in a bad way, but let's just take, for example, there's been, even in this community, there's been, since like say the first of the year, in the last year, quite a few people have transitioned, of all ages. We just had a good friend who coordinated a conference, 40 years old, man. Transition, Sherilyn transition. There's been quite a bit of that. And my point is that I've noticed that the way I'm seeing it in the field, how people are dealing with these things isn't like it used to be. It's almost like death is a false flag. It's like anything with that frequency of BS goes away. And it's kind of challenging because the human heart, like in that situation, the human heart gets pulled this way, which is a pattern from our programming. But then there's also this higher heart that's saying, hey, without being too fluffy, love, and light, understand what that is. And here's where you stand now. I mean, it's interesting. And these little things, how we're being challenged in terms of we're asking questions. We're being pushed to ask questions, and that's a good thing, because the curiosity to me is what expands this whole thing.
Yeah. And that's the whole. The paradigm is changing. Our belief systems is changing. I mean, you look again. I will always come back to science because, like I say, science actually shows the ancient ways. You go back to 1900s with the first split experiments, the split light experiments, and they realised that the observer affects the experiment. We are the observer. That the FBI were doing experiments back in the 90s with 2,000 spiritual people, and they dropped in DC. They dropped the crime rate by 25%. They did it with 7,000 people, and they dropped the crime rate globally by over 80%. And that was 9 months before September the 11th. And funny enough, September 11th, 2001, I was actually in San Francisco. We landed in San Francisco on the day of the towers, and that was a real Boggie moment, because there was everybody,
you got stranded. You got
I got stranded a little. I mean, I was in San Francisco.
Same thing happened to me. I was in Atlanta. Yeah. I was actually making twice a week. I was making a trip out of Logan, where 2 of those planes came out of. Yeah, that was trippy. Hey, Shanine Mooland, right? Isn't that how you say it? Mooland?
Yeah, you said it right. Yeah, I think I know her. I think I recognise that name.
She says, what is ego death, and what's it look like for both of you? You go first.
Okay. So, in science and psychology, we used to talk about, the angel on one side and the devil on the other, or in Taoism, it was monkey mind, the ego, and Taoist or Buddhist thought. Well, in medical science, they've actually found the monkey mind is in your forebrain. you have 60 to 90,000 thoughts running in the front of your head all the time, every single day. And your intuition is in your heart, baby. You know, the mighty Doc, you know, Doc Delaney, that old geezer. I think you've had
the one that's been showing his ass on social media.
Yeah. Showing his cheeks.
I was going to go get a kilt, but I'm not going to get one that looks like a fucking miniskirt.
Hey, I've been in a kilt before. I love kilts.
I would love to have one, but it's going to be at least to my knees or a couple inches lower.
Well, Boggie actually Boggie is a town in Scotland, and it actually has its own kilt. So there was actually a clan. Boggie was a clan. Why am I not surprised? Boggie was a Scottish clan, and they actually have their own kilt. So, but anyway, so the intuition is in your heart, and when you listen to your heart, and Doc talks about listening to the heart. When you actually listen to the heart, and when you're happy, that heart energy expands, and it's actually toridic in nature. When they've looked at it, the biomagnetic electric field looks like a donut, a tora, and it expands when you're happy, and it expands. It heals the body, and when it contracts, when you're scared and frightened, it contracts, and then your body gets weak. So this whole ego death. I have a little issue with ego death. Killing the ego is like saying I'm going to chop off my head and still be happy, and still be going. Well, maybe scientifically I could do it, but the ego is part of you. But it's a little bit like the nagging uncle or aunt that you sort of acknowledge them and say, thank you very much, auntie, thank you very much, uncle, for that information. And then you look at it. Is it worth anything? And if it isn't, you carry on. So for me, the ego is a seafood. It's your survival instincts. It will bring up certain things. But as a more enlightened being, you take that information and go, should I be running around like a headless chicken because I've run out of toilet roll? No, let's go and find some or make some or wipe my bottom in a different way. The ego will make you panic about anything and everything, and so it's about understanding that's how the ego works and then dealing with it appropriately. Well, that's my perception of it.
So your ego death. No, I can appreciate what you're saying because the ego is, look, as far as we know, and all we know is about the present moment, right? The ego's still here, right? So, like anything else that I'm aware of and conscious of, I know if I reject it or disassociate or separate from it, then I'm going to be coming back to the teal because there's got to be some unification. Oneness is oneness. But for me, ego death has changed. It's changed over time. I don't think about it a lot, but I think about the challenges to my ego. And what's come into play this year has been, as I release illusionary mask or self-hypnotized, or whatever you want to call it, masks that I wore, loops that I was involved in because I had a traumatic episode or a belief system or a construct that was based on hearsay or whatever it is that I was able to zero point. Let's put it that way. Well, I've found that as that happens, and I zero point something or a group of things, say in a general aspect of my makeup, I get elated and elevated, but at the same time, I start to realize, hey, there's a part of me that used to handle that stuff that's no longer here. So you're like, wait a minute, it's kind of like probably the best example I could give you is sacred sexuality. So, as a metaphoric example, all the things that I knew, performance, dominance, just all these things, the self-image that it gave me or took away from me, all these things that were part of this prior program, letting go of them, and with that, part of my identity I had to let go of, which was, these great things or whatever I thought of myself. And then you're standing there buck naked like a newborn literally, and yeah, you start to discover new things. But there is, there is, to me, that's kind of a ego deaths, or like little. The ego to me is like a little markers of progress that you let go. Yeah, it kind of hurts a little bit, or maybe it confuses you, which is good. But the other side of it is, as I'm taking control and as I'm becoming empowered and I'm embodying all my different aspects, the ego is a very good friend of mine, because the ego tells me when I'm triggered, and the ego tells me it's like a red flag, but it's not like a doomsday red flag. It's more like a, hey pal, heads up, here's an opportunity for you, so
and that's that's the point. I think it's not, well, I know that people evolved, because there's a saying that I would say 10 years ago, and I'd pretty much get rocks thrown at me, which was, there is no good or bad, there just is. And people say, oh, but what about war, and what about this and that and the other, and because they're very much in the ego, and they're very much in that opposing opposites. But when you realize that when you're triggered by something, it's an opportunity to deal with it. It's an opportunity to find a way through it. My Sifu would say, like with ego, my Sifu would say, why does a toddler or a baby not care if they have no clothes on? Because they didn't know they're meant to. They didn't know they're meant. We teach children to be shamed of their bodies, and shamed of just being naked and running around butt naked and being free in the wind. Before that, they don't give a flying toot. And so what is ego? Ego is something we put on. So if you take it off and it comes on, well, you can choose to wear it, you can choose to be activated by it, or you can choose not to be. When I say you are your own god or goddess, and people go, oh, no, I don't have that power. Of course you have that power. You have that power medically, because Bruce Lipton, Joe Dispenza, they're talking about that we actually can, generate our health. We can actually, placebo, nocebo effect shows how much we can affect our physical health. But also we have that own power in our own bodies. We are God. We are God or goddess. We choose what emotions affect us and what things affect us. And the whole point of, for me, the 0 point, or the Wu Chi Dao, is taking away that energy and using it somewhere else. Is like in your body. If your shoulders are tense and you take away that tension in your shoulders, you'll suddenly have so much more energy, because all the energy is going into making your shoulders tense. As soon as you deactivate that tension, you have more energy. So as soon as you take the energy away from that ego, from that thing you're fearing, or that anxiety, that stress or worry, that energy is abundant. That energy will come back to you, and you'll have more to do what you need to do. But as any good Daryl should say, Todd, hey, what do I know?
Yeah, right. As you're walking out the door, everything I just said, forget about it.
Yeah, forget everything. I know nothing. I come from Barcelona, nice ceiling. What do I know?
Yeah, right. But this whole trip is about integrating and 0 pointing polarities. And so you got non-physical and physical, male and female. You got all kinds of them. And then you have soul and ego. Because I know when I came out 9 years ago, I would write. That's all I wrote about, was I'm not my ego, basically. I'm my soul. But then you start, I had the luxury of meeting Morgan. So I start directing them both toward the center, toward the 0 point. And that's to me, it's like, it's an asset. It's an asset. Like we were talking about on a show a couple of days ago, sometimes your greatest strength is also your greatest weakness, and
for that reason.
Exactly. Well, yeah, it's like, even like a shamanic approach, like we've had teachers or coaches, or spiritual masters. Some of us have worked with, I haven't, but where they challenge you, like, you don't know if they're being sarcastic or they're being real, and they like just to keep you on your toes and test you. And so that's what I see that energy like the soul on one side, the ego on the other. How do you bring this? This is what I think we're doing. I think we're creating an expanded template, because we've had a a more original realm set up, a more original experience, which has created new experiences, which has created new choices to make and new levels of expansion to reach for, and I think that the ego's been a huge part of it. But yeah, it needs to be embraced just like the rest of it.
Oh yeah, yeah. You got to understand. Like I say, everything that's happened to you is your Sifu. Everything that's happened to you has led you to where you are now, and you got to understand that. Even the ego. This is why like I've always said, I don't agree with this. The killing of the ego in the essence of, destroying it. You can't destroy everything exists because it's meant to exist. But what you can do is take away its power. In Tai Chi, which is like, it is a healing art, but it's also a martial art, you deflect your opponent's energy away from you. So as they try to hit you, you guide that, your hands come up, deflect that punch, and they punch air. And they try again, and you do it again, and you do it again. You keep doing it until they run out of energy and they get knackered. And it's the same with these things. When you take away their energy, then all they are is just a thing. They're just, they're information. And that's, it's this thing of, rather than letting it affect the heart and dropping your energy, your Torah field, and then it affects your healing system, by acknowledging what it is and taking away that power, you gain that power. There's a great thing. Nissan Herriman, who's a physicist, he says, or this is slightly under a cup, he says, but a cup full of space has enough energy in it to evaporate all the oceans of the body. Now, whether you're big, little, or small, you've got a couple of cups inside you. So you've got that much energy, that much potential, that not to evaporate oceans, but how much energy there is inside you to create so many things. And there is science there to show we are meant by our DNA. They have found out that we are meant. They officially say 150 years until we get old. The actual evidence showed 250 to 500 years before we get old. Not before we die, before we get old. And when you ask the question, well, why aren't we doing that? Stress, tension, worry, anxiety. Our society is built to have us running around like a headless chicken, or was. We're now changing, we're coming to a point where, whether we like it or not, we're coming and we're confronting that. The C word, co-evid, people, whatever you think of it, it's a bit like your ego. It's put you in a situation where you've been confronted. You've been confronted by your family. You've been confronted by situations. You've had, if you were saying, "Oh, I never have a minute to myself," you've got plenty of minutes now.
Yeah, right.
I never see my family. You do now because they're right on your nose. It's been an ego. This situation is ego. It's making you confront everything. It's making you face everything.
Yeah.
And that's the point. I think that's the point of, the energy that we're going through for the next 2,000 odd years. It is making us face things, but by facing it, and if you face it in that way of zero pointing, as the wonderful Morgan says, you then get that energy back, that unlimited energy, rather than seeing ourselves as limited and as narrow and not enough. We can't do this or we can't do that. The potentials are unlimited. Our energy is unlimited. Our possibilities are unlimited if you stop giving away all your energy. And you're giving it away in your own body for stress and worry and tension and all these things you think you should be worrying about, where, focus on the things that are important. And that's not necessarily what you think it is. You need to reevaluate that as well. What is really important? Yeah.
Does thine own self be true? What are you going to say? But hey.
No, hey, what do I know? You know my mind.
Well, here's the way I see it. They talk about people talked about for years about a polar shift. So you can like picture like a clock going, in a circle, and then all of a sudden it stops and it starts going the other way. And I feel like that's what's happening with us.
Mm.
And I feel like that, we might look at the last 5 to 10,000 years and look at the evolution and the pace of evolution, which is really implanted because time is implanted. History is not only, well, it's an implant too, whether it's truthful or not, that's another question. But I guess, it was like a book was read to us and said, here's how everything is. Almost like the Wizard of Oz, until Toto went behind the green curtain and exposed it. So I feel like what's happening, because people talk about the solar flash or the event, as if it's going to be a single moment, at such and such time, hour, minutes, seconds, But to me, it's like we're the polar shift.
Yep.
So it stops. There's that pause in between. I think that's where we're at. And it starts to go the other way. And I think what I feel is going to happen is the speed or the rate of evolution is, if you want to put it in linear terms, is going to be like that. Because information is moving so quickly. We're sharing in ways way beyond the standard method that we've grown up in, which is read this, listen to this, test your comprehension and your memorization or whatever the case is, train through repetition or whatever. It's actually being transferred through the ethers. Yeah. And it's moving very rapidly. And I believe things such as what you're bringing up, which is a great point, this regeneration, it's not even going to be a matter of we are going to regenerate. We're regenerating the entire makeup of it. So I absolutely feel that people will start to, and have already started to, get younger and to regenerate, organs and different parts of their body. And we are going to be, I don't think we came all this way to spend 10 years in bliss. I think this is where the 1,000 years or the 2,000 years of peace, which I know is metaphoric, that we are actually going to reap the rewards of our work. Yeah.
I mean, there's a beautiful metaphor that I love. Is like, think of a bowl. So think of a bowl of water and the water's going one way. If you put your finger in and you do the opposite direction, the first thing that happens is you get splash up because, you're trying to change the current. So the water splashes up and splashes over. It's a bit chaotic, but eventually the water then accepts that new way and goes the way. What's happening now? Chaos. Splash up. Everything's being thrown into the fire. Everything's been, put into the surface. We're changing the current. We're changing the flow. And at some point, that flow will be accepted. And as you say, it won't be, because, linear time. Well, think of even last week. Last week is a mere memory. It was a second ago, and everything is just current. Is now the ancient Taoists were very quantum physicists. They talked about the past, the present, the future is happening all at once. Yeah. They truly believe that, and you can fold space and time. And I've actually said it myself. There was a being that used to be around me from the age of about 9 years old, especially, that I always felt familiar, but was looking after me. And when I got up to into my 20s, I started learning this technique where you can fold space and time, and you can go and just be, not affect that reality, but you just put your energy there, you support it, you support that person. And I suddenly realized the person that was the energy, the being that was there and just being there, and in essence saying, you're going to get through this, don't commit suicide, you're going to be fine, everything's going to be okay, was me. It was me. And I know that the being that's doing it now, that I feel the being, the presence now, that's me. That's future me. Because, that's part of, it's not the only thing, but it's part of what's happening is that everything is interconnected. And so this current, this flow will just suddenly go, boom. And suddenly, look, the 100 monkey effect. The 100 monkey effect is the real thing. again, I could go through the science, but basically, once it gets up to a certain point of saturation, it's a domino, like a sudden domino, and everything gets blurry, just like the camera. And then, boom, it's suddenly changed and everything's altered.
Right on.
But hey,
what do I know?
what do I know? Well, see, the whole point of that is that, you know, when you're gaining information and knowledge, you don't want the ego let you think you know everything. You're so awesome, Boggie. You know all this stuff, because then you start to narrow your field. You start to, if you always know that there's always more to learn, there's always more to grow. I can expect, you know, there's more I can fit in, because I remember at school they're saying, you only learn to a certain point. You can only learn so much. And I've studied the brain. I've studied psychology. That's not how the brain works. The brain, if you keep making it move or making it work, it will get bigger and bigger, and it will work things out. It compact things, and it will make more space. So there is no limit to your knowledge. There is no limit to how much energy you can have, how much you can expand your consciousness, and how much you can know. So what do I know is my little Taoist joke to myself to remind myself there's always more to learn.
Yeah, yeah. And that's a good point too. You bring up at the past, present, and future, because I know I've always gotten that message. When things would come in, it would like those three things merged. But also what you said about who were you talking to, or who were you feeling? So, you know, talking to my future self, you know, well, we talk a lot about talking to your younger self, you know, your young child self, your teenage self. But, you know, I learned from, you know, working with Morgan a couple years ago, if I have something that's in front of me and I'm trying to figure it out, like, how do I build this? You know, how do I create this? Or whatever the case is, to actually pull my future self up. Yeah. And I don't even have to have a detailed explanation. All I have to do is align with that part of me that's already put this to bed. You know, and just.
Well, when people say, "Oh, you know, I was thinking of you, I was sending you my love," in essence, for those, you know, Reiki, when you hear the word Reiki, sending energy, we do that all the time. You know, "Oh, my thoughts are with you, my love is with you." But who says you can't send energy to your future self? Who says you can't put, you know, how am I going to figure this out? Meditate, do qigong, dance with a banana, however it works for you. But send energy to your future self. Send energy to that opportunity. There is and energy is communication. Energy is a form of communication. You know, that's the whole point. You know, love and light is a form of communication. And that's, I think, part of this, the next level, the Great Ascension, 5D, whatever you want to call it. I think it's understanding that there is no past, or present, or future. There just is, and we can slip in between these. We can send energy to the future. We can, you know, if you allow yourself to expand, if you allow yourself to think, I can go beyond this, then why can't you? You know, because that's the big thing with children. Think they can do everything until adults tell them they can't.
Right on. That's right. That's where it all starts, right? Yeah. You know, first time you try to go grab something you can't, that they don't want you to have. Yeah. You hear the word no. Yeah. Dude,
and I've never grown up, so you know it never
me either. I haven't either. Believe me, man. Spending an hour with you is like, you know, it's like a snap of fingers. Do you ever just, you know, sit down and, well, I know you must, because you must meditate if you're into Tai Chi and so on. That's probably I mean, I can, you know, I've had bouts like that in my life where I've been fully on pretty much all the time, but I don't know. It seemed to evolve. Sometimes I'm that way, actually a lot less now, but I don't know. It's weird because also I think what's changed this year is, we used to almost gauge our level of success or level of achievement, you know, or whatever, by the quantity of calories we burned. You know what I mean? Metaphorically speaking. But now it seems like, I try to go to sleep so early last night. and I couldn't. And it's like, 10 days in a row, pretty much. I'm up till 3:30, 4, 4:30, 5, 5 o'clock in the morning, sleep 3 or 4 hours, and I'm fine.
How much energy is in that water again? That's the whole point. When you suddenly tap into your own body. I mean, to answer your question, yes, I do. There are quiet times. Most people don't see it. That's the whole point, because you only see what's on the screen, and this is only 1 hour out of 24. I do have quiet moments. I was notoriously known as an ice skater, be absolutely jumping and spinning and do all crazy stuff, and then I could then go and sit and do a sitting or standing position called shamshong, stand like a tree for an hour, and I've got students who see me do that. I've done a demonstration where I've done an hour of a position and going, oh, I did that wrong, or I have to do it again. So I go do another hour, and you can. But when you don't put borders on it, when you say I can do this, or what, it's done. It's not about I can. It's already done. When you think it's already done, and it's understanding, Boggie, understanding that yes, you want chaos and you want calmness. You want both. You want a mixture of the
totally agree. I was laying in bed last night and connecting. Last night was a quiet night. She didn't say anything. I didn't say anything. So I connected, and when I connected, some pretty cool stuff happened, like visually. But it took me back to when I was 25 years old. Now I was about probably 3 years into, a pretty consistent meditation every night, lots of reading, lots of connecting. And so I had a Kundalini experience laying in bed, came up from my ass and went up through my crown, and you know how it goes. And so then, like about 5 days later, I was doing the same thing, and I had another one, and I could feel what I understand now is my light body. I could feel my light body foot hit the ground like I was getting out of bed. And anyway, what I got last night wasn't so much about that. It was about how they were basically you and me or whatever was telling me that you actually had the opportunity to move into, an extremely higher vibration or whatever the case was, but that at that point, I, as a human, was intuitively connected, made a choice to raise the stakes. So at the human level, that second, situation that I was describing scared me. And I thought, oh, I'm shutting this down. But at the higher level, I set up a bunch of stuff, like to the human would be crap, chaos, trauma, and so on, to then, end up, 25 years later, walking the streets like a maniac at 49 years old. Right. But
that was needed. That was your wandering Taoist stage. That was where you learn stuff. You learn and you experience. That's the whole point, Yeah,
and I think this is what we're all doing. I think that from what I pick up from people like you and other people that bring in the information a little bit different, is that we obviously put this together. You obviously don't get punished when you're sent here. The entire, universal family is wanting to come through this experience. It's a huge opportunity for expansion and the experiential, but that we got to a certain point and we said, hey, this ain't so bad. Why don't we push the envelope and create a little bit more chaos and get this thing, to a more opportunistic level of potential before we walk out the door.
Yeah.
So I think we all have that. It's just, I think it's that time now, though. We're at the home stretch. So that 26,000 years you're talking about.
We're here, baby.
Yeah, it's the end of a cycle of cycles. Cycle within the cycles, right?
Indeed. Right. And somebody asked, is this a lightsaber? Yep. George Lucas actually based Star Wars on Taoism, the Eastern philosophies. The Force is Chi. The yin and the yang is the dark and the light side of the force. And if you actually listen to the original canons, Disney altered it, unfortunately, but the original canons, they talk about grey code, and the grey code are the true Jedi, the understanding of the dark and the light side. And the Jedi, or Jedi, comes from the Egyptian word de-Jedi, which means pillar of light, which is an energy which goes through the center of your body. So you've got the Kundalini that rises up, the pillar of light comes down. When you blend those two together, you get the light body. You get that. You have only the Kundalini, you can get crisis, you can get turmoil. But when you add the fire to the water, which is the light, you get Tai Chi. That's that symbol. Tai Chi, that balance of the yin and the yang. The feminine and the divine feminine, divine masculine are not sexes. They are qualities.
That's right.
That's the one, is that we are both, both me and Todd are both feminine and masculine. Morgan's both feminine and masculine. Right. Everybody has those qualities. That's an understanding now. But anyway.
Did I tell you that I said it on a couple of shows? I don't know if you've seen it, but about 5 days ago, my female light body came out and her male light body came out. And I watched her male higher self make love to my female higher self. I guess the light body was kind of like the go-between.
Yeah.
Because the feelings came in through that, or the sensations, and then went into the physical body. So, man, the whole, and that's not a secluded, unique, energetic event. Everybody experiences things differently. We happen to experience things very in the physicality. Everything's very much embodied. And some people do it in dimension, some people do it in dreams, and some people do it other ways that's undetectable, or unconscious.
And none of it's wrong. None of it's wrong. None of it's right. It just is what it is. That's the bottom line. We've got to stop seeing these polarities. We've got to stop seeing these. This is right and this is wrong. Yeah. If it works for you, that's your thing, dude. That is your thing. So go with it, flow with it. If it doesn't work, do something else. Try something else.